What is up, guys? Bobgar here, and it's time for closing thoughts on Tentic's modern mono black zombies. We ended up going 3-2, and we ended up being against, honestly, pretty tough competition. No super easy matchups. I technically went 4-2. I cut one game. Well, I cut two games. One where the person just left after turn 3 or so. But one game which we kind of legitimately won, but it was against a pretty niche deck, and the match was just super short. It was like 5 minutes maybe. It was against the Genesis Wave deck, and game 1 he just must not have had a good keep, and we kind of ran him over. And then game 2 he put out some of his ramp, and we murdered them with nameless inversions, and he kind of gave up there too. So I didn't feel like that one was worth keeping. But in the games I kept and I showed, we went 3-2, and I thought the deck performed pretty well. I was impressed with some of our wins, disappointed by a few of them, but I think it performed about like it should have. All right, let's jump in and let's talk about the winners and the losers. So the cards I thought did really well. Well, they're all a line on the top, so I can just kind of read down and talk about them. Cryptbreaker just did exactly what he was supposed to do. Put out 2/2s when you needed 2/2s, drew your cards when you needed to draw cards. I was really impressed with Cryptbreaker. I've been continually impressed by him in every deck I played him in. He is a little slow. He kind of stops the deck from being a true aggro deck, but the amount of advantage he gives you over the course of the game, in my opinion, is worth it. So I like Cryptbreaker a lot. Gravecrawler, likewise, just 1 mana to keep playing this guy from your graveyard is amazing. I like Gravecrawler a lot. He just gives you that persistent threat, and in combination with our lords, he's pretty powerful. Death Baron, I know he's the one that you're not going to be able to play if you want to make this a budget deck in paper, which is unfortunate, but he is very good. Like, the deathtouch was certainly better than Lord of the Curse ability, and I think he's just the strongest zombie lord in the deck. And then let's talk about Lord of the Accursed. I thought he was good. He gets the X not because I think he's bad, just because I think he deserves to be switched out. Yeah, I was trying to decide whether to put the X on him or Smuggler's Copter, which Smuggler's Copter was super good in a couple matches. In a couple matches, I just never wanted to play it. But yeah, Lord of the Accursed had the issue that his ability just was absolutely never relevant in any of the games we played. And I don't know if it's ever going to be relevant. I don't know if it's just not a modern relevant ability, or if it's just we didn't hit the right matchups for it to be good. But that's the reason it gives me an X. For me, I think I would try one of the other 3-drop zombie lords that you can try. I think Lord of the Undead is one of them that I'd be interested in trying. He's like tap, pay 2, tap, return a zombie card from your graveyard to your hand. Again, that one's also not going to be useful very often, but I have a feeling it might have been more useful to us than Lord of the Accursed was there. So I think that might be the one I would try. If nothing else, that lets you get back your Death Barons if your opponent's picking off your lords a lot. On to the next one that gets an X. Ghoulcaller's Chant was a hard one to give an X to. I think it is really good in some matchups. And, you know, that's pretty important. But it's not good in enough matchups. I don't know. I feel like I don't feel like I would take them all out, but maybe 3 is too many. I don't know. In a couple of the really grindy matchups, it was good, but against like the slightly more aggro-y things, it just felt like, well, we're never going to get a chance to use this. So it's just almost a dead card. So it's hard. I think it does deserve to be in the deck, just not as a 3 of, maybe as a 2 of. I'm not sure. And then Sign in Blood, again, it was good occasionally, but there were definitely sometimes we had it in our hand and we just couldn't afford to pay the life to use it, couldn't afford to take the time off to use it. A little bit too slow for modern, I think, at least in this deck. I already had it down as a 2 of, so it wasn't too bad, but that was the problem with that. And like I said, I almost give an X to Smuggler's Copter because in the grindy decks, it was really good, but against non-grindy decks, it felt a little slow. So that was the reason that Smuggler's Copter was kind of like, it's all right. But there were some times it felt like we just wanted more quick interaction and stuff to do early to keep ourselves from getting run over by the less grindy decks we ran into. So that's the deck. That's a look at the winners and losers. In general, I was pretty happy with the deck. Nameless Inversion could also get an X because with that, if you took out Ghoulcaller's Chant, there's no way you'd want Nameless Inversion. It's really, you run that because you're running the Ghoulcaller's Chant. And they did combo really well that last game. Like, we could, I think twice in a row, we Ghoulcaller's Chanted to get back our 2 Nameless Inversions and used our Nameless Inversions to good effects, murdering our opponent's creatures. So, definitely wasn't bad. But yeah, anyway, that's the deck. That's how it looks. I was relatively happy with it. Let's talk about upgrades. So, Zombies isn't a real deck in terms of being like tier competitive. I mean, it's a real deck, but it's not like tier competitive or anything. I think these are the things that I would at least try when upgrading. Some of them seem obvious to me and like slam dunk, so you should definitely do it. And some of them are like a little less clear. I think Inquisition and Collective Brutality makes sense to put in. You know, remove some of the Sign-In Bloods and maybe Smugglers, Copters, and maybe one of the Ghoulcaller's Chant, and put in some Inquisitions and Collective Brutalities. I think that would be a good way to go. I think I would try Lord of the Undead over Lord of the Accursed, since Lord of the Accursed ability never came up. Lord of the Undead is also pretty good. On Magic Online, he's pretty cheap. I forget how much he is, but I think he's pretty cheap. And so in paper, he's about $10. He's cheaper than Death Baron, but more expensive than Cemetery Reaper or Lord of the Accursed or any of those. So yeah, I think he's worth trying. I think he's pretty good. Relentless Dead, I think, makes sense to put in, probably over Smuggler's Copter. He has enough zombie synergies to be pretty good in the deck, and I think he's worth running at least as like a 2 of, maybe even as a 3 of. He could be better than the Rat. I like the Rat's ability, but it was a little weird. And then I think at the 3-drop, rather than go for Lord of the Undead, I think it makes sense to run somewhere between 1 and 3 Planeswalkers. I'm looking at Liliana of the Veil as a pretty good option. We don't really mind discarding things, so she's pretty good for us. And making our opponent sacrifice creatures is also pretty powerful. So I think she's pretty good. I could also see running Liliana the Last Hope. Not quite as important. Her minus throws some stuff in our graveyard, which isn't terrible. And her plus can murder some opponent creatures, which is also not terrible. But I think Liliana of the Veil probably fits us better. So maybe I'd run like 2 Lord of the Undead, 2 Liliana of the Veil. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to test with them, and I don't have Liliana of the Veil online, so I'm not going to be able to do that. But somewhere in there. And then lands, I think we can definitely do slightly better on lands than we did. 20 swamps is great, but we can run some Orborgs to make some normally colorless lands tap as swamps for us. I think that would be very useful. And then we can also throw in some Mutavaults, and Mutavaults I think would be really good in the deck. It gives us another attacker, especially after they sweep. It gives us an attacker if our opponent's playing control or something, so that's pretty powerful. And then also, because it has all creature types, when we activate it, we instantly have a zombie and then can replay our Gravecrawler. So I think for that reason it's super powerful. I think it's a slam dunk to run is probably a 4 of in the deck, and then probably like 2 Orborgs maybe. I don't think you'd want to go higher than 2 just because you don't want to get into the realm of drawing 2 of them since it's legendary. So that's probably about how I would build it. That would up the price obviously quite a bit when you're talking about Mutavault and Orborg. I think are both like $10-ish cards, and Liliana's like an $80 card. This is paper prices. I actually don't know what the online prices for them are. And Relentless Dead, I think, is going to crash with rotation, so you might be able to pick that up pretty cheap. That might not be too bad. Inquisitions aren't too bad right now. Collective Brutalities are still sitting around 10 or 12 bucks, but I think Inquisitions are like somewhere between 3 and 5 in paper, and I think a little bit less than that online. So Inquisitions are a cheap pickup if you wanted to have something that probably upgrades the deck a little bit. And that's how I think I would do it. I don't know. These are just kind of ideas that I would, like I said, I would test with. I haven't actually played it, so I'm not sure, but I think that could increase our win percentage slightly. But overall, I was really happy with how the deck ran. I thought it was a lot of fun to play. It had some interesting choices, especially with how to use Cryptbreaker at different points in time. Yeah, and I had a blast. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Let me know if you have suggestions, if you think there's other good upgrades to do, if you have requests for decks for me to do later, any of that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Hey guys, Bobgar here. I just really wanted to quickly say, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. If you enjoy my content in general and would like to see more of it, subscribe. I'll be coming out with more content in the future. And please leave me comments and let me know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, both in terms of production and in terms of my play and my deck building and all that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time.